I don't know how to really describe what depression is like for those who don't have it. I'm gonna do the best I can. Today, I had a pretty serious episode with it, and I don't know. This is something I've struggled with for my entire life, at least as long as I can remember it. Even as a small child, I'd had a few little things here and there that I think you could ultimately chalk up to what would become depression, but it really started hitting me around preteen, not even preteen, like 9, 10, you know, to preteen, to teenage, to high school. And it's just something I've had to deal with my whole life. Even when I do hobbies and when I play games, I like to think look at these games. Cat Quest? Motherfucking Cat Quest? I love these games. They're silly, but I love them. When it comes to depression, I don't even really feel sad. And it was bad today. It was really, really, really bad today. And I felt unhappy, but it wasn't sadness. It was just a absence of that happiness. I'm obviously not in a place I want to be. And I don't mean that like geographically. I mean like just in general in my life. And this sort of sense of failure, of frustration, of being like, why can't I do what I want to do? Why am I bad at certain things? It is so pervasive. There's this thought that keeps running through my head over and over and over again of why do I even get up in the morning? I don't know. I'm at work. It's not a bad job, It's not. I've definitely had jobs I've hated more, but if anything, I'm still just unhappy because I'm like I'm making money, but I'm like, what's the point? I don't need this money except to live. And right now that I just have this general thought of, well, is life even really like worth the living part? Like I'm doing fine. I don't know why I'm not happy with it. It's like I want more, and I guess you could argue about, I should just be grateful. These it's a first world sort of problem, I'm not starving to death, so I should be happier. I should be fine, but I'm not. Instead, I'm just really, really not happy. I'm in this state of being stuck in unhappiness and feeling like I can't do anything about it. Depression is just like this frustration, this anger, this desire for something, anything to change, anything interesting to happen. But all the steps to take to fix it, you just can't do it. It's already in your head that it won't work. Like even thinking about going to therapy, right? It's a very important step that a lot of people will go to first. Well, you need to go to therapy. I there's a lot of therapists that are just not very good or just not right fixes. And it can be a pretty big burden both on time and money, more importantly, to find one that actually works for you. It's difficult. And you've no guarantee that it'll even be a right fit until you're several sessions in, which once again is a major time and monetary investment. Depression isn't just sadness. Sadness is an emotion, and it can be an extremely powerful emotion. And sadness can, if it's really intense and stays with you long enough, caused by, like, loss of a spouse or loved one or just some major terrible life event, that can lead to depression from the original sadness. But depression itself isn't just an emotion. It's this like Frankenstein's monster abomination collection of thought processes and emotions, including at times sadness, that just sticks with you. It sticks in your head and it like infects every single thought process you have. It just infects every single decision you make, every thought you have. It all gets corrupted almost by depression. Depression is like a lack of motivation, bad negative thinking, um, anger and frustration and bitterness, and just this constant line of irrational thinking that is ever present. And it's really hard to think your way out of that place, especially when you're in the depths of depression. That irrational thinking is just the norm. Even even sometimes where you might be able to logically think to yourself, this isn't right. This isn't a real way to think about this situation. I shouldn't be thinking to myself, I am not going to bother with therapy or medication because it'll already fail. I already know that. That's not how you should feel. You haven't even tried it yet. You don't even know. And there's definitely stories of success with it. But when you're in the middle of that depressive episode, that irrational thinking is just how you think. I don't know how to describe it more than that. It's like the rational thoughts, your brain is already discarding them even before it reaches your conscious mind. And even now, when I'm more in a rational spot, not quite in the middle of that episode, in the middle of that depressive episode, I had all of the thoughts that normally I would think, that doesn't make any sense. I haven't even tried any of that yet. New medications or consistent therapy or like exercise and all these other things, trying hobbies. Just think of any step you think that might be able to help get out of depression or at least help treat it when it's at its worst. And I was in that moment thinking how little that would help and how it won't help and how effectively I'm just screwed. That's like the number one thought, is that no matter what I do, it won't get better. I've tried everything. That's it. I've tried everything. And I've had depression long enough to understand that's what happens when you're depressed. I've been around it long enough to know that's just depression talking. But even now, even today, in that episode, I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't stop thinking that way. It really sucks. I called people just to talk, just to try and deal with these thoughts in my head so they wouldn't just be stuck inside. And it kind of helped. I'm not really sure it did help or if it just took time for it to dissipate like a fog. It's so exhausting to deal with depression. It tries its hardest to like turn you into a pessimistic, self-loathing, bitter person that's horrible to be around. Trust me, I know it's as much as a lot of people want to be the super nice person that has the infinite patience. Being around someone who's in the depths of depression and they're just so negative all the time, it's constant. It's week by month by year. They're the same way. And you try to help, and they almost like toss away your help out of hand. I understand why that is so frustrating to be around. And to be honest, I don't blame you if you decide you can't be around it. It's just not good for your health. I get that. I understand that. Trust me, you're not going to do anyone a favor by being around a depressing person so much and trying to take that onto yourself to the point that you also end up a depressed person. It's not worth it. Depression is so hard to treat and it's so hard to escape from. And especially when you're younger or you don't have access to the proper help, you can get stuck in this cycle where you're not getting help because you already think the help's not going to do anything for you, so you don't get that help, even though you're exhausted of being miserable all the time, and you're like, I wish I wasn't miserable. But instead of going to get the help you need, you are stuck in that irrational thinking where you say to yourself, that won't help me, so I won't try it. I won't even try it. And that's irrational. It is. It's a 100% irrational thought process. If you're sick, you need, let's say you get a broken bone. All right? You need to go somewhere to get that put into a cast so it can heal properly, right? Otherwise, it just won't heal right, ever. The difference being, if you have a broken bone, you're almost certainly going to go to a clinic or an ER or something to get it put into a cast. That broken bone isn't bending how you think into being like, there's no point to get a cast, it won't work, I'm gonna have this broken bone. And then later on, you're like, oh god, this broken bone hurts so bad, it didn't heal right. And you still don't go to an ER or a doctor to get it fixed. It's completely irrational thinking, but that's one of the worst symptoms of depression. Depression just affects your thought processes, your thinking at the most basic level until you cannot tell the difference. It's not like a thought in your head. When you're in that depressive episode, all these negative, irrational thinking thoughts, they're coming from you, and you can't tell the difference. How are you supposed to get out of that? Now, thankfully, usually these depressive episodes do fade a little bit, and you can get a little bit more of that rational thinking back. Those are the times you really gotta get help. Because if you're in the middle of a depressive episode, I don't know, it's not just a question of willpower or knowing better. It's like you just gotta get lucky. Being in the middle of a depressive episode is feeling like you're dying, like your very soul is just withering away. And what's worse is depression usually tries to tell you you deserve it. I don't really know how to put it better than that. Even in your best moments, even in the moments you're supposed to be happiest, you will probably feel a dread that you're going to come crashing back down again. And that spoils it. And it's irrational thinking, but that's part of the depression in the first place. So how do you get it actually cured? Well, shit if I know. I've taken a lot of steps to try and treat it over the years. Taking medicine regularly. I mean, I'm trying. I'm trying so hard. And one of the worst parts is that it's every time I fall back into that depressive episode, it's so discouraging. And it feels like every step I've taken was meaningless. And I have made progress here and there. I'm not as bitter and like, I don't lash out anywhere near as badly as when I first had major depressive episodes. And yet I still have them. And this one was about as bad as they've ever been. So how do you deal with depression? I I don't know. Taking my medicine consistently. I'm gonna try and do more. And my brain tells me it won't work, but I'm gonna try because I I don't know what's the alternate path. I just get so down someday. My fear of death is just like overwhelmed. Is that what's going on? Is that the only alternate path, or just to suck it up and be miserable? Like, is that a life? Is that worth living, to be miserable no matter what you're trying to do? Every step you take feeling like it wasn't worth it? I don't know. That's what it feels like to have depression. Is you're stuck with it and you have no idea how to fix it, how to make it stop, how to feel better. And there have been times I've felt so much better and I'm doing all the right steps. And then there's some weeks, some months even, when I'm doing all those same steps and I'm so depressed. I feel like I'm dying. I just want to get off this roller coaster of ups and downs. I don't know how. And it sucks, and it affects my work life, it affects my personal life. It's robbed from me, and I've let it sometimes, and that really, really sucks. I'm not even really sad. I'm just not happy with where I'm at. And no matter how much money I make, or what kind of job I have, or the benefits I have, or the people I know, As long as this dark cloud stays inside my own brain, as long as I have this thing in my head, I don't know, like, it's just not a life I want to lead. I want to be able to be happy and content. So that was a bit more of a rambling sort of bit than I wanted it to be. I hope you or someone can relate to what this is like, or maybe someone is helped to know they're not alone, or maybe this will help you understand what this illness is like to live with. I'm not trying to say woe is me or anything. I'm really not. I just want you to hear what a lot of these thought processes really are like. And it's constant. And I'm sure a lot of people with depression, most people with depression have the same thought processes. Some people will have different ones, and they're almost all negative all the time. It is so brutal to live with sometimes. I hope in some way this rambling mess of a first open heart episode helps somebody somewhere. And if not, well, at least it felt good to get it off my chest.